On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, another SIG P320 accident, why to buy a 40 Smith & Wesson, 2 tiers of justice, and buying an AK on the dark web. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Kraken and Marky, and this is episode 312 of the John1911 Podcast. Today is Friday, July 28th? Do I have that right? Is it the 28th?
I believe so, yeah.
And it is a little bit after 5 o'clock on Friday, and we're doing a podcast a little bit early, which I like. I mean, relative to what we've been doing them lately. So, how you been, stranger? What's going on with you?
Oh, just trying not to melt. The heat index here is like 111 right now.
Holy smokes.
101 on the thermometer and add a few degrees for humidity, so you can just about see the air.
Yeah, well, we've been able to see the air here for a while because of the smoke. You know,
Yeah.
like there's more and more people around here that are like, when is this smoke from Canada going to stop? And it's like, well, maybe we should invade Canada. You know, it's like we should just, I mean, they're polluting the planet. So, how long does it take them to put out a fire? It's like, well, you got to realize 90% of the population of Canada lives within 100 miles of the border. And so these fires are way up in the middle of nowhere. So we're going to have smoke all summer, the rest of the summer. So the air quality between the temperature and the air quality, it's terrible here. It's terrible.
We got the smoke for a couple days, and then that south wind came in, and I think it pushed it. It brought the heat, but it pushed the smoke up. So we're only having to deal with one or the other right now.
Yeah. As far as heat, we're not nearly as hot as you are. We were about 96 earlier today, but a big storm blew through, so it's about 85 right now. Really cooled things off, but it dumped a ton of water.
We're supposed to get storms tonight and cool off, so.
Yep. Speaking of cooling off, I hear those SIG P320 sales are going to be slowing down. That's the rumor on the street.
Yeah, I saw that link of that discharge, what was it, in Connecticut? And it leaves me with more questions than answers.
Montville PD. Is that? I didn't even look up where they were. We have the video. What we're talking about is if you're in the industry, you've all heard the rumors about the SIG. It used to be Glock leg, now it's SIG leg, and the issues with the P320 and the lawsuits. And I know, like, for example, I know there's a detective who's suing over having a 320 hit him in the leg. A separate lawsuit, but anyway, this discharge happened on video, on security camera, facility security camera, and body camera, and it is obvious this gun is in the holster, and it went off, and it's like, holy shit balls. But as you and I were discussing, and I want you to reiterate for the listener, it may not be as simple as what people think it could be. Explain.
Exactly. Looking at the holster the gun was in, it's hard to determine just because of the video angles and such what make and model of holster it is. It does not appear to me to be the Safariland ALS type of holster, just because of the way it sets off of the officer's hip. There's a lot bigger gap than any of mine have, and I've probably got a half dozen of them. And he's also wearing just an inner belt with no other gear attached, which makes me think possibly he's on a desk assignment, or he's not working the street. So maybe he peeled a duty holster off of a duty belt and just slapped it on an inner belt because he didn't want to buy a better holster for the purpose. But something about the Safariland ALS holsters that many listeners may not realize, the retention system indexes off the ejection port. The trigger guard area is really, really open. There are no protrusions, no form fitting to the frame of the gun. It's very open so that nothing can really get to the trigger. But those holsters are made, and I'm speaking specifically to the Safariland brand right now. They are made for specific lights. So the most common one that you will see is fitted for a TLR1 streamlight, which is, kind of the Glock of duty lights. But they're not the
I have
newest.
never seen a cop with a TLR1 Streamlight in this part of the country.
Oh, that's pretty much, it dominates the market here. But what happens is around here, guys that can stray from department issued lights look for the newest, latest, greatest, brightest light. So they may not necessarily be dimensionally close, but it will fit. But it doesn't fit well enough for the gun to stay secure in the holster. So it'll start flopping around in there. So just to experiment, I put a couple of different lights on my 320, and you can get a lot of play in the holster just by switching lights.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's a desk jockey or some type of an administrative guy that's not out on the street, especially if he's a day shift guy, if he peeled that light off to try and save weight, because when you get up there in years, that starts working on your hips, so every little bit of weight can help. If he peeled that light off and went, well, it still clicks. Uh, if you just reach down and grip the gun while it's in the holster and turn it left to right, those holsters are fitted well enough. There's basically no play at all. But if you try and push that gun front to back, the old saying, hot dog down a hallway, kicks in. You can get a half, 3/4 of an inch of front to back movement. And the one thing I noticed in the video was the gun discharged when the officer was bending over,
Yeah.
and the thigh of a supporting officer actually makes contact with the pistol grip of the gun while it's in the holster. So depending on the holster used, what light's on it, if there's a light on it, there's some things that could make me at least conceivably say it might be a holster issue versus a 320 issue.
Yeah. And and we have a, if you want to see the raw, the incident that explains some of what you're referencing, the incident in question took place in the lobby of a PD. Apparently, a doper came in. It's like, of course, a doper came in to the PD, and there's a drug drop off bin, old prescription drug drop off bin in the lobby, and this doper came in trying to steal out of that bin, and he got jammed up, and so I mean, it's not a pig pile, but I mean, this guy surrounded by, I don't know, off the top of my head, seven officers,
Yeah,
because he's at home base. So the officer in question that you're talking about may have just came out from behind, the glass, and, it's his lobby. And so he's trying to admin the prisoner. So he's not wearing a regular duty belt. You don't think? I don't
yeah,
recall if he was or he wasn't. So, but the video is on our website if you want to see the video. And the news report of the video of the local news report as well, which is interesting. So, you know, everyone wants to jump on SIG, but the truth is, anyone that's been around the block on these kinds of things, you got to look at the holsters too. There's no two ways about it. You've got to consider the holster. You know, you know.
absolutely. And that's even, and I've seen some really poor examples of Kydex. Everybody that with an oven and a sheet of Kydex is trying to make Kydex holsters. And if you do it right, you can get a really nice looking form fitting holster for a particular firearm. Where guys get in trouble is they start trying to form fit around the trigger guard too much. And on a striker fired weapon, especially a non Glock that doesn't have that center bar safety in the middle of the trigger,
Mm-hmm.
it could be easy if you get just a little bit off on your shaping to actually be able to engage that trigger with the holster upon reholstering.
Interesting. I've never made holsters, but I don't have any lessons learned. But that's oof. Just even oof.
Yeah.
No,
So that's
but
going back to the old days when the Glocks first came out. That's why we were taught, because we used a lot of thumb brake holsters in the day. That's why we were taught to reholster with actually our index finger over the trigger guard, protecting the trigger upon reholstering. So, like the thumb brake strap couldn't get in there. Uh, if your Kydex holster, if the guy's formed it too much, it can engage trigger. So it's the same theory, holster actuated trigger.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, I went through some training with that, and the trick is with the old thumb brake holsters was instead of putting the gun straight down, is you would circle the gun behind
Yep.
and come in behind the thumb brakes, then drop it in.
Yep.
So it was like a
And then
circle
we were
motion.
taught to ride the trigger guard too.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know we were taught to ride the back of the slide. I don't
Yep.
remember if there was a trigger guard.
Yep. So we were taught you did a circular motion, ride the back of the slide with your thumb, and
Hmm.
your index finger was over the top of the trigger guard, so nothing could get inside the trigger guard upon reholstering.
That makes sense. I honestly don't remember. I mean, it's been
Well, that was like 100 years ago for
fuck.
me. So
Yeah, I mean, fuck, that was 20 years ago for me. So, at the time I went through this, I'm like, fuck you guys. I carry a 1911. I don't give a shit. I was like the one guy. It's like, I have a 1911. I don't care.
let's
Um,
put it. That was told that that a Glock Gen 1 was the newest, latest, greatest thing on the block, and everybody thought they were going to explode because they were plastic.
yeah. I don't remember, I mean, I remember a Glock when they came out. We obviously didn't call them Gen 1s, but I don't ever really recall ever really seeing Glocks on the street until they were Gen 2s. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually saw a Gen 1 Glock at the time. Like I don't recall. But they were just
Yeah.
Glocks at the time, so. And it took me a long time to be able to figure out the difference in a Gen 2, Gen 3 Glock. I mean, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell I couldn't tell a Glock apart. Like these, what gen is this Glock? I mean, I'm like, I have no, I literally, I'm like, I have no idea. How the hell
Yeah.
can you tell? They look the same to me now. I see it, but yeah. So, but it's going to be interesting. I mean, the P320 and some of these lawsuits, and the thing is too, it's like, okay, did you say that this particular holster, can you even uh mount the pistol without even having the a light on it?
In the Safari Land ALS series holsters, you can. The fit to the slide is very tight, so you can't get any counterclockwise or clockwise rotational movement. But you can actually, if you don't have a light on it, you can actually just pull back on it a little bit, two fingers, and pull it right out of the holster, because it will actually rotate back far enough, because that light's not stabilizing it, that you'll slip the retention system on the ejection port and pull it right out.
So we could even potentially see a situation where this turns out to be user error, and it's not even. I mean,
Exactly.
it's not even the holster maker's fault. Like, it was as crazy as it. I mean, I'm not the guy making excuses. I can already see there's going to be, oh yeah, all the SIG YouTube guys are going to be coming out defending SIG, and like trying to say this isn't real or whatever. Like, it's obviously fucking real. But what's most astounding to me, and I'm an old guy, and you're an old guy too, and old guys, we have memories. Um, and I lived through this, and you lived through this, the Glock leg era.
Oh yeah.
Things come back around. Like in the old days, I'm just as an aside, in the old days, it wasn't school shooters that people worried about. It was the post office shooter. Going postal was a thing. Like, it was always like the post office. Like, what the hell's going on at the post office? And so, back in the day, it wasn't SIG, it was Glock, and it was Glock. It literally was called Glock leg, and Glock defended multiple lawsuits, and they even after they even after, I remember the last one, even after they had defeated all of these issues in court and had proven that there was nothing wrong with the gun, nothing wrong with whatever, and these guns just don't go off, they would still occasionally get a lawsuit they would have to defend in some different jurisdiction and have to do it all over again. And the last one I recall was in Kentucky, and it was a PD down there, and it's been within, I'd say within 15 years, the last law, and and Glock won, and whoever sued them lost, and basically they determined that there's nothing wrong with this gun, and the user shot themselves in the leg, or whatever it is, whatever the way they injured themselves. But one of the conspicuous things with all these Glock lawsuits and all this drama was there was never any, when you got to court, there was never any corroborating evidence proving or backing up the allegation of the people suing Glock. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was a he said, she said, or maybe an eyewitness thing, but there was nothing exculpatory that, it was just, you had to kind of, figure it out, or test stuff afterwards. This video and this PD, I mean, it's astounding. There's multiple, because there's cameras everywhere now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, not only do you see the gun go off because of the amount of light that there is, and the frames per second that the cameras are recording, it actually captures the bullet, because it's going to be some HP fancy bullet that's got some shiny fucking coating on it, and literally you can see the streak of the bullet as it's exiting this thing, and it goes down like I mean, this thing almost shot two people. Like
Yeah.
the cop that supposedly you think maybe bumped the gun, I'm not certain, but it's a miracle he didn't get shot in his hand or his leg. And then there was a guy behind him. I mean, this bullet probably went within a foot and a
A
half of
foot.
him, maybe
Yeah.
2 feet. Yeah, I mean, it was like holy shit balls, and
There
it's
had to be some
astounding.
guys buying some new underwear after that one.
Yeah, and like it's like holy cow. It's just like, oh no,
But
and I got,
circling back to not knowing what we don't know about these situations. So you sent me a video, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks ago, uh, where it was supposedly a ghost discharge, but the gun was in the officer's hand right after
did
he'd
I?
unholstered. Yeah, and everybody was jumping all over that one as
I don't
another SIG
remember.
failure.
I don't
I'll
remember
find
that
it.
one.
I'll find it. Send it back to you.
Okay.
But it didn't take long, and some guys that had the capability slowed that video down off that body cam. And you can actually, in that particular case, you can actually see at the moment of muzzle flash when they do it frame by frame, his finger is well onto the trigger. So that was not a ghost discharge. Uh,
Yeah.
Whether he realizes he did it because of the adrenaline rush or what have you, but there is definitive evidence on that one that his finger was on the trigger at the moment of discharge.
Yeah. You know what? And that got memory hold, because even I don't even remember it. You know. And it's like, I mean, I just remember Tex Grubner. And if you remember
Mhm.
the Tex Grubner video,
Yeah.
Tex Grubner is a YouTuber, and he was out there performing like this ECQC uh, uh, handgun drill on a target, and some kind of Kimber 1911, and he's not used to operating a Kimber or operating a 1911, because I think he primarily shoots Glocks, and he put a round right through his leg on video,
Yeah.
and then he published it to the internet. It's like, like, and I mean, the fact that I still, like, I don't remember people's names off YouTube, but I still remember that dude's name, and I still use it. And it's like, and it's like, I don't sit here, acting like I'm holier than thou than Tex Scrubner. What I say to myself is, but for the grace of God, there goes I. And not that I'm saying that, it can happen to any of us, because I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, don't think you're so good you can get sloppy. Shit can bite you, and it's like, Lord help me if we ever shoot one. Someone gets shot, like we're filming a video, and somebody gets shot. Someone shoots themselves. I mean, we've had it where I used to work. We had was the guy a cop? He was a cop. He was running a Beretta 92, and that long DA first trigger pull,
Mm-hmm.
and he pulled that trigger and he put a round, and it went what did it damaged the holster, skimmed. I think it skimmed his outside of his calf, and then went into the dirt. So I mean, he was able, like, to transfer him to the hospital. He was able to return the next day, but it's like, I mean,
Did you
you
ever
know,
train on a TDA, traditional double action pistol, like the Berettas, the Smiths that have
yeah, because we had military clients, so they
Oh
always would
my
show up at the
God.
M9.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of live fire repetitions of draw, double action fire, single action fire, check your work through your sights, decock, then come off the target. Simply so you didn't reholster with it in single action.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
wrap up to the point it was like, oh my God, I know I'm shooting your ammo, but Jesus save me.
yeah. I mean, and I remember, like, the Army guys. We would have. And I don't want to say who they were, but they were. And not. They're not. I'm not. I just realized that came out totally fucking wrong. If you get cagey about anything, everyone gets all like tear fucking. It's like, no, they weren't.
They
No,
weren't
they
mess
weren't.
cooks.
They weren't messed. No, but they weren't fucking. Yeah, they weren't special people
Yeah,
or any of that bullshit. But it's not someone that I wanted. I'm not really
yeah.
comfortable. I don't feel like it would be fair to them to associate them with me or John 1911, because they were never associated with John 1911. So I'm not going to say their name. But um, it got to a point, because their guns weren't GD cockers, their standard M9s, that we even had to train them two different ways, because it was understood that various base commanders would enforce different rules on how they could carry their handguns. For example, some base commanders would be like, we want that safety on that gun, and some base commanders would be like, you can leave the safety off, but keep it, hammer down and loaded. And like, they would change from base to base. And so, I mean, there was really no real standard manual of arms. And there's people that are listening to this, they're going to be like, fuck you, that doesn't happen. And I'm like, fuck you, yes, it does, because we've seen it. And, so it just, you get into these, this is the way we do it thing. And the farther away you get from the flagpole, the more, well, that was cool the way you were taught. Now let's show you how we do it here thing. That happens everywhere.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, you know, it's easy to sit on the internet and judge and be like, oh, that's because you're screwed up, or you did this, or we would never do that because we're special and you're not, or we're smarter than you. It's like, whatever. I mean, concentrate on doing the best you can. But to get back to the 320 thing, what I thought was interesting is that, did you see the news report from the television station on the Mountville Police Department?
No.
Did you see what they decided, how they decided to address the SIG P320, their service pistol issue?
Mm-mm.
They immediately went out and placed an order for like 30 Glocks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, we're pulling them,
And the
and it's
neighboring
like,
department is like, yeah, we're fine with the 320 right now, at least till the investigation's done.
Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah,
but you can easily, it's like a situation where it's like, you're a city council or you're a city government, and you're like, we already had one incident with this fucking thing, and it's now making news. What if it becomes national news, and we don't do something, and then there's another incident? We're screwed. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Someone gets hurt, we're screwed. And it's just like I think they said they wrote a check for 30, was it for 20, was it 33,000, 30 some $1,000 for 25 guns? It's a
yeah,
fairly small police department.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Blue
so
Label's probably right around $500 a pop, between 450 and 500.
mhm. Well,
But
probably have to change holsters too,
well,
right?
then you're gonna have to change holsters, and more than lot, you may have to change magazine holders.
You
Uh,
might.
you're gonna have to buy probably a third magazine for each weapon, unless they bid that into the deal. It depends on where they got them.
I think Blue Label guns come with 3 mags now. I'm pretty sure Glocks
It's
come with 3 mags.
yeah, they
So
are now. I guess yeah. So
all the
yeah,
ones
they don't
we
have to
well,
buy the
yeah,
extra mags, but then you're gonna have expenditures in training time.
yeah, we oh yeah, well then you're into the situation. It's like, from an insurance standpoint, because you got, I don't know how it works in Connecticut, but you got your state governing board, and then you've got your, every entity has to carry insurance.
Mhm.
And, it's that insurance that determines certain things. For example, if they will cover you if things happen while you're working. And it's like, they require, like, it's not uncommon. Like, this is a known thing if you're in the industry. Like, let me how do I say this? You could, okay, what's the baddest ass gun school in America right now? Like, I don't know, like, in your opinion, like, there's not a right or wrong answer. Just I want you to give me a name that you're thinking of. That way it's not a typical name that I would give. What to you, what would be like the
Oh,
top tier
there's a
gun school in
bunch of
America?
them. As far as like an on-site gun school, I think Clint's probably still pretty good. Uh, to me, the best trainers out there are some of the retired guys out of the tier one groups
I know, but I mean, like,
that are
but I'm
traveling.
yeah, but I mean like a facility, because I'm talking about insurance, because a
Oh,
facility's got to
insurance.
have liability insurance. So like
Let's just
it
say
is.
Clint Smith.
We're gonna say so. Clint Smith. So it is entirely possible. As a matter of fact, it's entirely likely that Clint Smith, and I don't know, I have no inside information on Clint Smith. I'm surmising this, and I'm applying this to this police department in Connecticut. Okay, Clint Smith is Clint Smith, and all of his people, like the Navy SEALs, go through there. I think SEAL teams. I mean, like, all these crazy high end dudes go through there to train. But Clint Smith is still a business, and he's got to maintain insurance, liability insurance for his business. And I can't guarantee you, but it would be not uncommon for the insurance company that's issuing the insurance for Clint Smith to say, if you want us to cover your instructor that's going to work this, or your instructor that's going to work this, or give these 15 people, every one of those people has to be an NRA certified instructor. And you're like, fucking really? But if something happens and they're not NRA certified, the insurance isn't going to cover.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Insurance isn't going to write that check. Well, this police department not only has to run out, get guns, they got to try to source holsters. Good luck getting Safariland holsters last minute,
Yeah.
especially fucking 25 of them. I mean, like, I have waited 6 months for a goddamn Safariland holster. Like, Safariland sucks. Everything about Safariland, back end of their business, their model numbers, how they, how they, how they name stuff, they make stuff, they fulfill orders. It's the fucking dumpster fire. And so, and then you factor in, okay, these dudes have to qualify. So does, like, all of a sudden, like, the next day is the Mountville Police Department can they get a waiver from their insurance, or insurance be like, Monday morning, every fucking officer's got to come in here and they got to shoot the state qualification with this gun, or we're not going to cover your ass. You see what I mean? Or maybe they're like, well,
Yep.
you got 30, maybe you got 30 days to get qualified. You got to pass qualification. And it's like, well, what if you don't have holsters? You see what I mean? Like, there's a lot more going on here administratively than just a stupid gun. And a lot of the people a lot of our gun fan base doesn't appreciate that because they're more interested in the gun. They don't deal with bureaucracy and money and insurance and that kind of stuff. And this is a mess,
Well, and
just
go a step further. Whoever does their training and qualification is going to have the training and qualifications on the particular Glock firearm. So they're either going to have to go to an outside agency and contract or hire or do a buddy agreement with an outside agency and bring in an instructor who can actually instruct that department.
well, I guess that would depend on whether what do you consider qualified? Like by my standards here, it would be passing the state qualification, whatever the pistol qualification is. Um,
Uh-huh.
And so I don't know if you can, if you show up with a fucking Bursa and you shoot the state qual, be like, well, you're fucking qualified because but there could be more to it, then you're into you're into the maintaining the gun or whatever, or like
Mm-hmm.
warranties of guns. The whole thing is a giant mess. The fact that this police department all of a sudden was like, we're switching to Glocks, and they made the decision I think within a day. We're just getting the Glocks. I was like, damn. I mean, the news channel likes talking to the police chief, and the police chief was like, yeah, we're switching to Glocks. I mean, I know Glock in Smyrna, Georgia is just like, hallelujah, Gen 5 Glocks, baby. So,
Yep. But there is
yeah,
a ton of logistics involved in this that people do not consider, and if you're not in that line of work, you don't understand.
yeah.
And
I mean,
here's
just
something else that came to my mind, maybe why they made the switch so fast, is that particular officer may be looking to file some kind of a civil suit against the department since the SIG 320, although it's not a settled issue, it's a known issue. So maybe he's looking, or they're worried that he would be looking at a civil action, so they're trying to do a preemptive. We switched everybody out into Glocks to try and head him off of saying, you knew it was a crappy gun, but that's what you gave us anyway, and that's why we all almost got killed.
yeah, that would be kind of like the same situation that happened down there in Kentucky with the last Glock lawsuit. I believe that's probably the last lawsuit that Glock ever had to
Yeah,
defend seriously. Was,
yeah,
it's like, this had been litigated multiple times, but, this person, I think they were injured. So that were this
yeah.
person in Connecticut, they weren't, but it's like, well, this is a known issue. It's like, well, it was adjudicated in Glock's favor. So it's not a statement of fact that it is an issue.
Yeah.
Um, so it could go either way, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's just a
That was
lot,
just a thought that came to
yeah,
mind why they
yeah.
switched to Glock so
The
fast.
biggest hurdle to me, is to be like, yeah, I need 25 Safariland level 2, level 3 retention holsters. And I'd be like, you are fucked, brother. You are fucked with a capital F. Fucking
Good,
Safariland.
good luck.
Oh my God. Like, just terrible. I mean, like, everything about their holster is great when you have it, but getting the holsters, identifying the holster you need, it is the worst. It is the most, I'm taking off my gun person hat, putting on my business hat. The way Safariland runs their catalog, to me, is criminal. It's
Yeah,
insanity how stupid their fucking catalog is. And if you don't believe me, you're like, I'm just being a dick, because chances are you run a Safariland holster because you're a cop and I love Safariland. Well, chances are you are running a holster because either issued to you or somebody said, yeah, you need holster 4527-4. Okay, so that's the holster you have. But trying to figure out and identify and deal with their catalog if you don't know what you need, I mean, from the customer's perspective, it's it's probably it's probably the only firearms related company that is fucked up worse than H&K has fucked up the previous 20 years on how they ran their company. It's like, this is
Wow,
stupid.
that's saying a lot.
Oh, it is. It's the only thing worse than H&K. And, H&K, basically, just I've said all that before. I don't need to rehash it here on this podcast,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
H&K is just fucking like, I mean, like, just, like if okay, all right, it's this, we'll tie
You
this
just
into the
can't help
listen.
yourself.
No, but like, okay, if you're like a person who's followed the news, and then you're like, well, somebody should sue the board over at Budweiser. Is it Budweiser? Bud Light, whatever it is. AB and Bev. I don't drink.
Yeah,
Somebody should sue them because they didn't they didn't meet their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. Right? If you want to go that route, if that's occurred to you, okay, if you knew the half of the bullshit that went on behind the scenes at H&K, you would easily be like, well, if you have an argument for someone to sue Budweiser for how stupidly they've run their company in the past, say, 5 months, it double it for H&K until the VP9 came out, and even then, it wasn't. It took them a couple years to
yeah.
straighten up and fly right. It's just such a poorly run company, and Safariland's catalog is an embarrassment. It's just insanity. So anyway, I'll get off that. So so I don't know. Anything else going on with you?
Oh, couple new armory editions. I picked up that SIG 229 all stainless. Put a few
Oh
rounds
yeah.
through it, and boy, it's heavy, but it sure soaks up recoil. It's pretty sweet shooter. Even after I busted your balls on the last podcast about getting a 40.
I mean, yeah, I shot the Springfield 40 Smith and Wesson. It's an all steel gun, and my perception is the perceived recoil is less than a 45 ACP all steel 1911 and 230
Yeah.
grain ball. So it's like, it's I mean, kind of a pussy cat. I mean, it's not like shooting a 9 millimeter, but it occurred to me after I shot it, and see if you agree with this. Look, sometimes when you shoot the same gun a lot, you kind of settle into a routine. Maybe I'm not going to say you get lazy, but it's like, especially 9 millimeter. You can get away with a lot with your grip with 9 millimeter that you can't get away with 45. And
Yeah.
shooting a heavier recoiling gun once in a while probably would serve the user well. Just to be like, and I would liken it to whenever you see a baseball player, like a guy coming up, he's going to bat next. I don't know what they call that, but they put the weights on their bat and they're swinging their bats, getting ready to, so when they take the weights off, the bat's real lively. I kind of look at it kind of the same way, as
Hmm.
shooting a 40 or shooting a 45 versus a 9 millimeter. It kind of reminds you need to keep your shit tight. Keep that muzzle flip down, keep that gun under control. It's just a justification to spend money to buy another gun. But it's like, I mean, it's not going to be hard for me to figure that out.
So yeah, I was really surprised with this 229. The recoil impulse is a little bit different than say some of the Glock 40s I've shot and such before, because I've had a bunch of 40s. So recoil was not that much more than my 226 and 9 millimeter with hot loads. So I was I
Definitely
was
see
very
that.
pleasantly surprised. Other than you're gonna have to, if a guy was gonna carry the all steel version, you're gonna want to run a very good belt with a very good holster, and it's probably very manageable at that point. Uh, the flimsy belts are not going to work with it, or flimsy holsters.
Where did you get the gun? Like,
It
how
was
did you?
actually a Facebook find, uh, and I just got priced into it so right, I just couldn't say no.
A Facebook
Probably,
find.
yeah. There's various ways to. They're still buying, selling, trading guns on Facebook if you know how to do it.
Is it one of those like, hey, I have a gun box for sale? I've seen some of those. I've
Oh
never
no,
bought a
they'll
gun
still
off of.
flag that. It's you'll find pages, flooring. I have I have some flooring planks that are 9 millimeters wide, made in Germany. Stuff like that, and then you hook up on instant messenger and you exchange pictures and talk and such as that. That it's just various ways. So like another example, Facebook says,
Say that again. Say about the last 8 seconds again.
uh lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
We were talking about 9 millimeter planks from Germany for wood
Oh,
floor planks.
uh similar way, like Facebook says you can't have raffles, so they have waffles for various items. It's just a way to get around the Facebook
Hmm.
AI that flags posts. So you'll find, if you run around in those circles, you'll find guys that have created pages, and you basically talk in code, and then you hook up on instant messenger.
And I assume these are all local transactions.
Yeah, it's local stuff. You go face to face.
Okay. I guess I'm missing
So
out.
I got into it for under $6.
Okay. So would you say is the okay, are the prices on surreptitious Facebook listings better than gun because gunbroker is expensive. Gunbrokers I think artificially high. Is it cheaper to buy that way than off of say gunbroker?
Oh, most of the time, yeah. And
Okay.
there's the pages I'm on, there it's kind of a set group. It's set to private, and we all kind of know each other or can vouch for each other, and uh, so there's a lot of buying and selling and trading going on.
You
Just
know,
just like
remind
when you could do it openly on Facebook.
okay. Well, I remember you could sell I think you could sell guns on eBay at one point. I seem to remember that.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So like it actually reminds me, I need to contact one of the property rooms to see if we've had any more stolen guns recovered because we had a bunch of stuff stolen. God, it's 25 so years ago. And one of them was a SIG P229 and 40 that we never got a chance to shoot it when we got hit. I've alluded to this in the past, but we had gotten there were a couple big gun stores that got robbed and or got burglarized, and our business got burglarized, and we lost 10 firearms. And one of them was a SIG 229 and 40. We've never seen it back yet. So
Huh.
yeah, so I had one of those. Never fired it. So it was. I don't think it was. It wasn't. I think it was. I mean, it was an all black gun. So I'm pretty certain it probably was an alloy frame. So if I can
Yeah.
recall. So, but yeah. So so what do you think's the bigger crisis politically in this country? Them trying to hide an immunity deal inside of a gun charge for Hunter Biden on something he's never been indicted on, which means the statute of limitations can still run out, or Mitch McConnell freezing for 19 seconds while talking to the news. Which is the bigger political crisis?
Uh, I wouldn't consider the Mitch McConnell thing a crisis. I almost, just looking at it, I haven't seen the news to see if, there's been any update on what happened. It almost looked to me like he might have had a TIA, like a mini stroke, the way he
Yeah.
locked up like that. Uh, I don't think that's a crisis, other than, he's the minority leader. Uh, the Hunter
Well,
Biden thing, that looked to me like the judge went, "What? There's immunity in this?" And the defense
Well,
went, "What? There's immunity?" And the prosecution went, "What? There's immunity?"
yeah. Well, what happened with that is so there's Biden is facing two charges, and neither one he's been indicted on. And so once you're indicted, the statute of limitations clock stops. Well,
Yeah.
he's never been indicted, which is interesting in itself. But so he has a plea deal in the tax case, and then there's the gun charge. And in the plea deal, there is verbiage that's pretty standard on this. This covers this. This covers this. This covers this. This covers this. And this is the way we do it. It doesn't cover this, doesn't cover this, doesn't cover that. And it's a standard way of writing. It's almost like a form. It's a
Yeah.
standard way of writing these terms because these exact same phrases and sentences and the way these are constructed has survived challenges on appellate courts for other cases. So you don't deviate from that.
Yeah.
There's only so many ways to write, we're not going to prosecute Marky for, whatever he did, concerning whatever we want to talk about. There's only so many ways to write that. And if you write it the same way, if you deviate from that, you're running a risk of opening up a door to having that challenged in the appellate court because you didn't construct it the same way, so the logic may not match, and you could cause problems. Well, then what this also does in these kinds of proceedings is in court, the officers of the court don't generally discuss the particulars of those deals. They'll reference the deal, but they won't discuss the particulars of the deal, because if they discuss the particulars of the deal, that's on the record, that's introducing more information that could undermine what's written in the document later on at the appellate level. So they never discuss it directly because they keep it in writing because it keeps the shit tight. Well, they had the tax charge and had standard language in it. That's the one everyone's paying attention to. And the fucking gun charge had this weird shit in it that no one's ever seen, that the judge is like, what is this weird? The judge normally wouldn't even see it, but because it was different verbiage, because it's like almost like a form, they're like, what the fuck is this? So I'm just a rubber. What is this? Like, and they're like, well, what is this? What is this? We can't. Are you saying that this is covering whatever? They're like, no, we're not saying that, because they don't want to say that, because if they say it yes or no, it becomes a fact that can be used in the appellate court. And so they're trying not even to talk on the record, but the judge is bringing this up. The judge pissed in the punch bowl because the judge was like, what is this weird shit on this other document here that's not standard, basically? And they're like, what are you talking about? And then she's like, this looks like an immunity deal for a bunch of other stuff that's not even covered here, that he hasn't even, for stuff he hasn't even been indicted for. And she's like, I'm not even sure that's constitutional. Is this
Yeah.
an immunity deal? And they're like, this isn't an immunity deal. And then the prosecutor's like, this is an immunity deal. And defense, this is an immunity deal. And everything fucking fell apart. And it's like, holy shit. It's some of the shadiest shit. That was super shady. And they almost got away with that. And I think the only reason they didn't get away with it was because it was such a high profile case. I think the judge, she didn't want to have this hung around her neck.
Mm-mm.
She was like, I don't want this weird shit on my docket in my courtroom, and then people saying I fucking wrote this fucking thing. And she's like, what is this? This isn't normal. It's going to have her name on it. She's like, what is this? Oh, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Well, Your Honor, can maybe we should have like 20 minutes meeting, quote, off the record is what they're really saying, so we can hash out the differences. And it all fucking fell apart. They got caught. Dude, they got caught.
They got
They got
caught
caught so
red-handed.
bad. Because, yeah, it's not like, these anyone that's ever been in court or dealt with this kind of stuff, you're not writing this shit freehand. This isn't creative writing class. It's pretty standard forms. This will get you this, this condition, this will get you this, and then you fill out the, in our year of the Lord 20, put the last two letters or two numbers of 2023 of whatever, number of June and whatever, like you fill it in, and it's
Add
like
the
this
name
thing
in the
was,
blank, add the
yeah,
charge in the blank, and
and
sign
and
it.
this thing was not bad at all, and she caught it, and she was like, "Whoa!" She's like, "What is this?" And that, in conjunction with the shit that's going on with Donald Trump, which a lot of it is self-inflicted. Let's just be real. But, I mean, like the two tiers of justice, just all we heard about for 4 years was how corrupt the Trump family was and how terrible the Trump children were. For some reason, they were just terrible. Everything about them was terrible. But this thing, they're trying to slide this fucking thing in this Delaware courtroom, with fucking Hunter Biden, and it's just like, this is crazy. And if you're honest with yourself, nobody gives a fuck about Hunter Biden. He's a piece of shit. Nobody cares about him. Democrats don't care about him. Republicans don't care about him. Nobody cares about this guy. He is a dirt bag.
Yep.
But they're not trying to save him. They're trying to save Joe Biden. Because the reality is, and I remember when this happened, Joe Biden was out of office. Word had gone out that Joe Biden was going to make some money. And, he was doing, it's lobbying. That's what we'll call it, lobbying. And so he was, lobbying to he was like, we're going, because they're broke, they don't have a lot of money. And so, it's like, we're going to do all these deals, and we're going to, have these relationships, and we're going to raise a ton of money, because after 30, 40 some years of service, Joe Biden was ready to make some money because he's done in politics. And when there were even rumors, hey, maybe Joe Biden should get in the race and run against Trump because they were so desperate to beat Trump at the reelection, I remember people were saying, Joe Biden can't run because he kind of sold out. You know what I mean? Like, he's not, it's like when, do you remember, Pat Buchanan? Remember Pat Buchanan, the Republican Pat Buchanan?
Yep, sure do.
Do you remember he ran for president? He did it a couple times. But do you remember the big thing that they cut his balls off on? Do you remember? A lot of people
It's
don't.
escaping me. No, I don't.
Pat Buchanan was going to run. I can remember what this was in 1980 or whatever it was. But Pat Buchanan was like, he's coming or whatever, and he's this pro-American whatever guy, and a lot of the same arguments about I think at the time it was the Japanese are eating our lunch and we got to do this for America and whatever, which is fine. It's all fine, because a lot of it's true. But then someone happened to notice that Pat Buchanan, he didn't drive an American car; he drove a Mercedes, and they were like, "Oh, that's interesting. Buy American, huh? You driving fucking Mercedes?" And it's like, and then he tried to get out of it and be like, "Well, that's not my car; that's my wife's car." And it's like, it's one of these things where you're like, you know what? When you're running for president, when you're going to run for president, maybe you should do an audit of your life and think about what you can and can't get away with. If you're riding a Gixxer bullet bike, maybe think about buying a Harley or a Buell. If you're driving a Mercedes, maybe think about buying a Cadillac. This is no different than Tiger Woods was the billion-dollar athlete, and all you ever saw him drive was Buicks and Cadillacs. And it's like, why come you never see Tiger Woods driving a Ferrari? This motherfucker was getting paid to drive a fucking Buick, and it would have hurt his image. Same thing running for president. And, just like with Pat Buchanan and his stupid fucking Mercedes, Joe Biden was not going to be able to, he was done in politics. And then they did all this shit and they decided he was the only guy to somehow beat Trump. And they've been covering ever since. And they're desperately trying to save him. They are desperate. That's what the Hunter Biden thing. No one wants to save Hunter Biden. They're trying to protect Uncle Joe
Yeah.
because
So,
he's obviously sold out.
so do you have your tinfoil hat on? Because I have a theory, but you might want to put your tinfoil hat on before I tell you.
Let me tell you what, the tinfoil hats. Did you hear about? We're not going to talk about. But did you hear about the? Did you hear about the chef that died? He drowned at the Barack Obama house,
Yeah,
like a
like
few
8
days
foot of
ago.
water.
And the conspiracy theories and the bullshit on Twitter about that are disgusting to me.
Yeah.
It's like if that is where you want to go or you think you need to go, you need to read out your goddamn life. But go ahead. Go on. Let me
Okay.
hear. Give me your theory.
So we have all these whistleblowers, and if you
Of
believe
what? Because which scandal? Which whistleblower?
with all the Burisma money with Hunter and the kickbacks to Joe. So let's just say, for sake of argument, there's some reality to that. There's maybe some ways to corroborate that, and the noose is tightening just a little bit. The Republicans are starting to openly talk about impeachment inquiries. Right now, I don't think the Democrats believe Joe Biden could beat Donald Trump. And this is my theory. I think that they may actually impeach Joe. The question becomes whether he gets convicted in the Senate or not. If they impeach Joe, that takes one of their big anti-Trump arguments away, because then you can't say, well, Trump's been impeached, so he's a dirtbag, because that becomes impeachment versus impeachment. They kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah.
They don't think that Joe can beat Trump, but he's the head of the party, so they can't really tell him he can't run. But if he gets impeached and you get enough Democrats to jump ship and actually convict him in the Senate, that gets him out of the way cleanly. Kamala becomes the first black female president. Don't say anything stupid, Kamala. You're going to pardon Joe, a.k.a. Gerald Ford. You get to be the first black female president. Then you're going to ride off into the sunset because we're going to nominate Gavin Newsom. And that tidies everything up very clean.
There's some merit to your logic, but there's a few weaknesses in it, and I agree with some of it. And so I'm gonna give you my response. Number one, Joe Biden, if he is actually voted for impeachment in the House and it goes to trial in the Senate, Joe Biden will never stand for impeachment. If it ever looked like he actually really seriously, honestly could be impeached, they would just, I'm not going to say 25th Amendment himself, but he could just resign. But, it's like,
He could just do a Nixon.
he would just, be like, I'm old, whatever. And people like, he has to go and he'd go right off into the sunset and say he did whatever. Second thing is, statistically speaking, I don't think I've ever said this on podcasts. I've said it to you and I've said it to Danny and I've said it to people in the office. Statistically, pure statistics, not political analysis, not partisan politics, not left, right, center, whatever crap. Statistically speaking, Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States. Joe Biden is the 46th president of the United States. Statistically speaking, Kamala Harris will end up being the 47th president of the United States. Now, whether she's the 47th president of the United States for a month or a year or for 4 years and 2 months, I don't know. But the fact is, she's in the line of succession, and I am not. And everyone else listening to this podcast is not. And so the chances that she's going to get bumped up, statistically speaking, are extraordinarily high. Okay? And so, and I'm going to say this. So your idea about Gavin Newsom versus Kamala Harris, it's like she's just going to go off into the sunset and do whatever. That to me is politically naive. And here's why. 2 things. Take off my Republican hat, put on my, let's pretend I'm Kamala Harris, okay? I'm Kamala Harris. Let's just be real, okay? She has climbed to the highest seats of power, either hook or crook, or however you want to say, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Joe and the hoe. I mean, I hate to say that, but like, she's not, she's
not
she
dumb.
she can't be dumb. She comes off as retarded. Like there's something like I mean, I'm not, don't at me, but it's like, like she's like Bob Dole. Bob Dole was a brilliant guy, but when you stuck a camera in his face, it's like you shoved a board up his ass and I'm Bob Dole and I'm going to tell you what, because Bob Dole's going to do what Bob Dole. He'd refer to himself in the third person and get real stiff. And,
Yeah.
and they turn a camera on with her and she just turns into a fucking crazy. It's just unbelievable how stilted she looks when they turn the cameras on. And so there's this perception that she's a moron. And she's not a moron. It seems like she's probably a little bit of a bitch because there seems to be there was a lot of chaos in the vice president's office. I don't know if that's still true, but it's certainly she had that reputation for a couple of years because their turnover rate was just terrible. Like the
Yeah.
word was going out like she's fucking psycho. There is no way at her age, she's very young. I think she's my age. Like I think she and I are the same age. I'm 51. There is no way at her age, if she becomes president for 5 minutes, that she isn't going to try to run to take the office and she isn't going to think she can grab the brass ring. She's going to have the brass ring. She's going to hold on to the brass ring. She's not going to give that shit up because guess what's going to happen? As stupid as everyone says she is and how terrible her reputation is and just how obviously she's just almost in because she's like the Democratic version of what Mitch McConnell looks like, just like word salad comes out of her
Yeah.
mouth. But the second she becomes president through hook or crook, she's going to become this historical figure. The media is going to fawn all over her. She's going to be, she's, black woman, a woman, first female president, first black woman president, from California. She's going to unite the country. She's going to reset the, our relations with the world. Opportunities to set her agenda, a young generation. She's not from this generation of these old white guys. She's young and she's like the media is going to suddenly turn and they're going to make her into Camelot. And there's no way that they're going to do that dog and pony show for her just for her to turn out the lights at the White House and walk out without a fight and just give it to old Gavin Newsom. She's going to be like, fuck you. She's be like, She's like, I'm here and you're not. And the thing is, when she's president, she's not vice president, she's president. And so she gets to hire anybody she wants, and anyone that doesn't either kiss her ass or get along with the program or the messages that she wants to put out that make her look good, they get fired immediately. So she doesn't have to like think about one thing. The one advantage to being president versus being vice president, you have to give Kamala some benefit of the doubt here. And I'm not defending her, but I'm just think about this. Joe Biden is probably not completely in control. That's fair to say, right? Like Joe
Yeah,
Biden's not
I'd agree.
like like Joe Biden doesn't have like, I don't know, a 300-page list of like all the shit he stands for and the things he wants to do when he's president. You know what I mean? And so other people do, whether it's the chief of staff or the whatever. And so a lot of stuff is delegated. And so Kamala Harris, she's the vice president. And so when they stick a camera in her face, she has to constantly try to be like, where do we stand on this? Or where do we stand on that? And I'm going to talk like this and talk in the word salad because I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. We haven't talked about it. But the thing is, if she's president, she can walk up there and be like, this is the policy. Well, wait a minute. That's different than what was said before.
Yeah,
She's
fuck
like,
you. I'm
well,
the president. That's what
fuck
it
you.
is
I'm the
now.
president. This is the policy.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't have to worry about other people.
Yep.
And so,
So here's a good
is
analogy, I think. So Joe Biden is Colonel Potter. We got to figure out who Radar is. Did I go
Vivek
back too many
Ramaswamy.
years for you?
Vivek Ramaswamy. I know
Sign
Radar
this, sign
is.
this, sign this, Colonel.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, hey, look, get with the times, I mean, it's more of a, I mean, we're more of a clinger generation than a radar generation. I'm just saying. Um, I don't know, like
It's going
Joe
to be
Biden. I mean,
really interesting. There's a lot of different ways it can work out.
Joe Biden is so fucked right now. He is so fiddly fucked right now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know how he's going to get through his presidency, and, conspiracy theories and whatever. The reality is, everyone that works in that West Wing, besides apparently snorting cocaine, will do everything they can to prop his ass up because the second he's no longer president or his name isn't on the door, they're out of a job. They're on their ass.
Yeah.
And the thing was like, well, they all work with Kamala. Kamala's going to come in there and be like, I didn't like your ass when I was vice president. Why should you work for me now? And
Yep.
so it's like Weekend at Bernie's right now at the White House. And I mean, I don't know. Is Donald Trump going to win? I don't know. I mean,
I just can't see the Dems propping him up through an election. They've got to
yeah.
figure out a way to convince him to step down, convince him not to run, or get him out of the way. And there's going to
Wait,
be to get him out of the way, it's going to take a lot of moving parts and a lot of backroom shady deals.
they're ultimately not going to be able to get him out of the way. And, one of the people that I would blame is his wife. Um, I mean, it's so ridiculous. But the Democratic, they're so hell bent because Donald Trump is such an existential threat that they literally propped this man up that somehow got him
Yeah.
elected. But the thing is, the media narratives that are spun today are not necessarily true and they're not durable. And so I'm going to bring up a different topic for the listener to prove a point. Okay, just because it's true now doesn't mean it's going to be true in 5 minutes or it's going to be true a year from now. Okay, so Twitter is now what, X, right?
Yeah.
X, whatever it's called. It's not, Elon Musk has changed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's and like Elon Musk is, he's changed the name of Twitter, and all you've heard since he's changed the name of Twitter for, what's been a week, maybe, whatever it's been, is all of these opinions and backlashes and analysis and criticisms from, liberal establishment, mainstream news, all this other kind of stuff, you know, how dumb this is, talk about, name recognition, market penetration, just all this crazy, every reason they want to give is to Elon Musk is a fucking moron. He may be a moron, I don't know. But here's a question, because I'm an old guy. I don't know, it's ancient history, but I seem to remember that all of you assholes that cared about Twitter left Twitter and went to something called Threads on Facebook. Oh, what happened to that? Threads was taking over. Threads was Facebook's replacement for Twitter. And it was the big thing, and it's like 30 million people, 40 million people, 70 million people signed up for it. Well, apparently it's now down 70%. Those people, they went, they tried it, and they left. They're all back on fucking Twitter. And before it was Threads, it was Mastodon. And it was like Mastodon, Mastodon, Mastodon. And before, it was it was, for the right, it was Parler. Parler, Parler, Parler. And my point is, the hype train, while it plays, it's like, ooh, look, bread and circus. Like, ooh, look, shiny thing. Pay attention to this. This is the way it's always going to be. It's like, yeah, whatever. Give it 5 fucking minutes. And if you're a consumer of, of our content, firearms content, or whatever, another example would be, and it was everyone get off of YouTube, do float plane and rumble and, all these different things. And guess what happens? Everybody ends up back on Twitter. You look at the largest, like the largest gun channel people that are on, YouTube, and they've got many millions of subscribers. And then you go to this alternative place and you'll look at like, how many people watched Ian McCollum's video here? It's like 2,000 people. I guarantee you, Ian McCollum is like, fuck this. This is crazy. And so, just because I'm using that as an example, just because people say, that Joe Biden is going to run or he's not going to run, or Gavin Newsom's going to get put in or not get put in, or whether our side, the guy from Florida, we're talking about a fall from
DeSantis.
grace. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
DeSantis. Like, Jesus, I'm talking about fall from grace.
Talk
It's
about
like, well, he's,
landing on your head.
yeah, that landing on your head. And it's like, we'll see. We will see. Everybody's kind of talking out of their ass right now. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. I mean, it, it, I'm not big into buying the hype of like, because what happens is the hype lends credence to the conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
And then people try to take the conspiracy theory and come up with some kind of algebraic equation to solve for X. And it always comes back to X, not Mastodon.
Yeah.
That was a joke. So, am I making my point here?
Yep. But I still think there's going to be some. They can't run Joe. However they get there, they can't run Joe.
Who's they?
The Democrats, they'll never let it.
But who's they?
Whoever Radar is, whoever's pulling the strings and having him sign the forms that he doesn't know he's signing.
There is no they. Joe Biden he's the president. I mean, maybe his wife is Radar. And if his wife doesn't, if he gets up, he's like, I want green eggs and ham today. And she's like, maybe you should think about resigning. He's like, maybe I should think about resigning today. Until somebody in his personal life says, Joe, let's go home to Delaware, he ain't going home to Delaware. And until there's, a real chance that there's going to be real damage to these people, and I think the Hunter Biden development in Delaware has proven one of two things will happen. That was the big news. It wasn't that there was a deal and the deal fell apart and the way they did it and did all this and did all that. That's not the real story. That's the hype story. The real story is it is now 100% certain, 100% certain that Joe Biden will go through an impeachment investigation in the House either this term, and if he's reelected, it'll be next term. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And now it's like they're going to have to make a decision as a family and, maybe as a party. Do they want to ride off into the sunset and play the hero and let someone else do it? Or do they think they've been getting away with it for this long, they can still get away with it. Now, you can use logic here to be like, well, they're just, there's no way they're going to ride this out. They're going to have to, retire off the battlefield. They're going to have to take their cards off the table. They're going to have to go home. This is the same party. Hillary Clinton. So I said Joe Biden got out of being vice president and he was like, we're going to make some money. And so they started doing all the lobbying stuff and, the Burisma and the Chinese and all that, because they were out of politics. It was all about influence and getting paid. He was not going to run anymore. Okay. When Bill Clinton left office, okay, Hillary Clinton immediately moved to New York, ran for Senate. Well, she even appointed, then she ran. But she became a senator, okay? Because Hillary wasn't done. Remember, 2 for the price of 1, Hillary. You get my wife, too. And she ran for Senate. She wasn't done. But you know what that crazy bitch did? Her and her husband decided, we'll create the Clinton Global Initiative. And it's this billion-dollar entity because it's post-presidency. And, post-presidents can make money. But, Hillary still got her foot in the game. And so it almost became this pseudo-retired, not retired, influence peddling, giant lobbying thing that was worth $1 billion. It was worth $1 billion. And that crazy bitch had that fucking thing, and she was going to keep it running all the way up when she was running for president. It wasn't until literally they had to practically pry that money out of her cold dead hands before they shut that fucking thing down. That's who the Democratic Party is. And so to sit here and think logically that we know what's going to happen with Joe Biden and we know what's going to happen with Kamala Harris, outside of statistics of statistically speaking, Kamala Harris is most likely going to be the 47th president of the United States. We don't know. We don't know what the hell's going on. We know that Joe Biden's going to get impeached. And there's going to be an impeachment hearing, one way or the other now.
That seems to be the direction it's going to me.
Mm-hmm, that's the real story. It's not about Hunter Biden. It's about Joe Biden getting impeached.
And to me, at least how I get there right now is the impeachment is how they possibly get him out of the way. Whether it's he resigns before, he gets convicted in the Senate, or whether the Dems all get together. I mean, and I got 10 other ways this could work out too.
But yeah, but we're a long.
But here's the thing I want to know.
But we're a long way from Joe Biden being to the point where it's like he's at Nixon level, where it's resign or you're going to actually be removed from office.
Oh yeah, we're in the first act of this.
Yeah, and so there's just because somebody votes to impeach articles of impeachment against Joe Biden doesn't mean he's going to be out of office or he's even close to being out of office.
Yeah, no.
He could drag it out and get through another term. Maybe almost get through. It's like he's going to be 80 some years old, and he's like, man, 3 years. I'll fucking be I'll be eating a steak through a straw. It's like I don't give a fuck. I'm just go back to Delaware.
So let me ask you this. My final thought on this whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give to be a fly on the wall 2 foot away from Hillary Clinton at the exact moment she finds out that Kamala is now president? I think I just killed Marky. Let's just say all this pans out and Kamala's gonna be the next president. What would you give to be 2 foot away from Hillary when she finds out?
I think Colin Powell said it best in a private email when he found out she was running for president. She is so cravenly hungry for power that she probably shouldn't be anywhere near it. And she will. I can see her with a President Kamala Harris, dun, 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 which it will be historic. There's no two ways about it. And they'll make her a hero. She'll go from zero to hero overnight. And Hillary will show up at the White House at some point, some big function, and Hillary will talk about women and talk about, the battle that women did to win the presidency. Hillary will show up somewhere with the President Kamala Harris and make it all about her, and she'll be just as disgusting as she was 5, 8, 9, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And the Hillary Clinton's fundamental weakness as a political animal, presidential candidate, and ultimately first lady is she never earned her her public position. She's Bill Clinton's wife. And so she was elevated artificially because she's Bill Clinton's wife. And that burns her to no end, and she can't stand it, and nothing she does will ever negate that. And the harder she tries to pretend that she is okay, no matter what you say about Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Kristi Noem up there in the Dakotas, Tim Scott down there in South Carolina, Nikki Haley down there in South Carolina, is they all started from zero, and everywhere they've gotten in their lives are because they have fought and built and related and grown and made their own destinies. And, maybe none of those people will end up being president of the United States. But Hillary Clinton never started from zero. Hillary Clinton never put her time in the minors. And that's that. And it was that weakness that ultimately is what cost her the election with Donald Trump, because she was so inexperienced and so full of shit that she couldn't even campaign in Michigan. The same, and so she lost Michigan. The same Michigan right now that is controlled by the Democrats all up and down the state. It's only been a couple years. And she lost Michigan. She was like, them fucking UAW guys. Fucking, we got Michigan. That's how stupid she is. And, it's like, she is uniquely a uniquely terrible she is a uniquely horrible political a uniquely horrible politician in American history that enabled Donald Trump to get elected president. That's how terrible she is. Donald Trump didn't get elected because of Donald Trump. He got elected because of her. And that's her
Yeah,
weakness.
he was the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Well, I firmly feel part of the reason why he got elected, when I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, we all went through the campaigns. I was like, he said some interesting stuff I agree with. But when Donald Trump came down the escalator and did whatever, I'm like, I don't know anything about this fucking guy. But the guy from TV, like the New York billionaire that wears the loafers and, has these supermodel wives, and doesn't have anything in common with anyone like me. Okay. But the inevitability that everybody said that Hillary Clinton's going to win, I was like, I'm not voting for that fucking bitch. I basically voted for Donald Trump because, like, well, I know who Hillary is. I'm not saying I love everything about Donald Trump. Like, this New York billionaire is going to protect my gun rights. Well, I guess I'll vote for him. But, we know he's not really pro-gun. Or he's not, whatever. He's a fucking Democrat. He's a lifelong Democrat. But it's like the arrogance of Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, of her inevitability, is what did her in. And I could easily see she's showing up there at a President Kamala Harris function, and that same stupid fucking attitude she has, thinking she's the center of the universe, just making everyone want to vomit. I mean, even Colin Powell was like, barf.
Yeah.
That's my feelings on Hillary Clinton. She's just
She shows up and does the I blazed the trail.
Mhm.
I yeah.
She is probably the single most important unelected presidential candidate in American history.
Yeah.
100 years from now, 100 years. Okay, all right. Pick any president from 100 years ago and name for me who his opposition was in the general election to win the White House. Nobody, like, yeah, you'd have to like get out a book or Google it. 100 years from now, it'll be Donald Trump and that crazy bitch Hillary Clinton. She literally, her legacy through history will be Donald Trump. That's how terrible she is.
Yeah. Totally agree.
So right now, because I know we've talked about this, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
What are chances? What are the chances Donald Trump? What are the chances Donald Trump wins in 2020, the general election? What are the chances? Do you think Donald Trump can win again? And if he doesn't, who do you think right now is most likely to get the Republican nomination for president? Because we always harp now on Democrats. We don't really talk about Republicans.
So at this point in 2015, when the election, when the primaries were just getting ready to get started, Trump was polling at 17%. So I don't put any money behind, Trump's polling at 50%, DeSantis is at 12, whatever it is. I don't care because those polls have proven they don't mean anything. My dark horse candidate that I think comes from the back and has a real shot of winning, if it's not going to be Trump, and I don't have a hard time saying I don't think it'll be Trump. I actually like Tim Scott's odds. He's charismatic. He's well spoken. He makes some very good points. Kind of the point you made. He's come from nothing. Uh, out of all of them, I think he's the guy that possibly could be the spoiler in the whole Trump parade. All else being equal.
I think Tim Scott. Look. Do I know everything there is to know about Tim Scott? No. There's a question whether Tim Scott's gay or not. And that while that's not going to be an issue now, when he starts to really, 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 if he gains traction, I guarantee you, some Democrat somewhere is going to be like, "How come he's never been married?" Evangelicals.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, but he seems like a really decent guy. So I'm watching Tim Scott. I can't help but like the guy. But I don't know. It comes out that he's like reasonable gun control, and I'm like, fuck. Like I have no idea, like like down to the nuts and bolts of what his positions are. But I will say my uninformed dark horse candidate, and I like Tim Scott, but there's a guy when he talks, they ask him a question, he talks. I like his answers. Is Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yep. I
I
really like him too. I just don't know if he has the political chops to get down and dirty when he's going to need to.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, does Tim Scott have the to get chops to get down and dirty when he needs to? I don't know. Like, you know,
That's the question really for any of them.
when
Other
what
than
do
Chris Christie, and he's basically doing the I just want to hammer Trump because I'm mad at him.
no one cares about Chris
Nobody's
Christie.
going to take him seriously.
Yeah, Chris Christie is people that talk about Chris Christie are the same people that were talking about Mike Pence. You heard Mike Pence isn't going to make the cutoff for the
Yeah.
first presidential the primary because it's like every time you saw Mike Pence being talked about on Fox News, if you watch Fox News, everybody just knew they were lying to you then, and I warned you, like it's wasting your time. Like, hell, let's have Mike Pence on. It's like, really? Like I have a better chance of getting on the stage than Mike Pence ever did, and I'm
Yep.
not exaggerating. It's not a complete exaggeration.
Nope.
Um,
So what's going to happen if Joe Manchin gets in as a third party candidate?
the no labels party.
I don't think it's the Republican wet dream that a lot of Republicans think it is. Because I think he can siphon off some independent votes that might have went Republican in a two-party election. I don't think he's the slam dunk for the Republicans winning that a lot of Republicans think it is.
He will absolutely hurt Democrats.
Oh, he'll
Um,
kill. Yeah, he'll really hurt Democrats, but I don't think it's as one-sided as Republicans think.
you know what? Nobody said this, so I'm going to say it. You know what Joe Manchin and who's the guy that's with Joe on the no labels party? Lieberman's dead. Who's he with now?
Oh, I can tell you if I wasn't trying to think of it.
I was trying to think Joe Lieberman, but it's not. Joe Lieberman's passed away. Um,
Yeah.
the the Joe Manchin and this whatever guy, and I'm not saying that this is as nefarious as the example I'm about to give, but ultimately they're going to end up in the same spot. And so it's going to end up being the same thing. Okay. Whether you end, however you got there, you still end up there. In the 2020 election, I always want to say it's the log cabin Republicans, but that's the gay Republicans. Okay. Kellyanne Conway's husband, the Lincoln Project. Remember the Lincoln Project? Kellyanne Conway's husband. There's the guy who, um, what the fuck? He was secretly hitting on the gay dudes, uh, in the back office or whatever. But like, they raised all this money from Democrats to damage Republicans and damage Trump because they were Republicans with a conscience. It's like, well, you know, and and it really you know, uh, Conway, that husband of Kellyanne Conway, is just turned into a psychopath. I mean, wrecked his marriage with his wife, wrecked his relationship with his daughter. His daughter's basically doing softcore porn now. Um, that was just and it was just a big giant money grift. They raised all this money to fuck over Republicans, and really it was just a way for them to make a ton of money. Joe Manchin's going to end up in the same spot. Joe Manchin's looking at the end of his career, and he's looking for something interesting to do. He is. Uh, he thought about running for governor again in West Virginia. He's very popular in West Virginia, but I think Trump. Won West Virginia by 40 points or something. Um, I don't know if he wants to go back to being governor. I don't know if he would even necessarily win that. So I think this is Joe Manchin trying to. This is Joe Manchin's version of Joe Biden selling out at the end of his career, not really thinking he's going to run in politics again. I think this is Joe Manchin's version of that. He's going to raise a bunch of money, raise his profile, maybe he can do some consulting, do some lobbying, do some public speaking, media will pay attention to him, he can get some shine, and it's all about him
Yep.
because that's what's really going on. I don't. I'm not as so much worried that he's going to trash. He's going to take a ton of votes from Democrats. Full disclosure, I know Joe Manchin. Um, I know Joe Manchin, so he's all these Republicans that feel good about Joe Manchin. Like, oh yeah, Middleburg. It's like, yeah, I got news for you, brother. He's still a fucking Democrat. He's not. Well, he's not
Yeah.
what you think. And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
And
didn't.
that's where I think it's not him run. If he did run, it wouldn't be the gold mine for the Republicans they think it will be as far as siphoning off Dem votes. And if he runs, I think it's nothing more than kind of what you're alluding to. It's kind of a grift for him, but I think there's also some middle finger back to the Democratic Party for kind of fucking him over on that pipeline. That's what got him to sign off on the whatever they call it, but it wound up being the Green New Deal, and then they turned around and backstabbed him on it. That might be to me, that might be the final middle finger to the Democratic Party on his way out, and then he goes off and makes a few million more.
Yeah, I mean, he can't run for president. Joe Manchin can't run for president. His daughter is a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. I mean, so
I don't
okay,
think he
but
gives two shits about winning. I think it's just a middle finger to the Democratic Party.
yeah, I think it's about Joe Manchin.
Yeah.
He likes being the center of attention. He likes being
Yep.
popular. Um, I'm going to say this. This was interesting. These are interesting statistics. And you look, I can be kind of hard on Trump sometimes. And I've, a lot of the stuff that Trump's going through right now with some of these investigations, a lot of it is just self-inflicted. It's like, it's whatever. It is what it
Oh
is.
yeah.
I'm going to vote for him. But
When you're in a hole, quit digging.
yeah, well, yeah, but I got to give Trump his props here. So, like, if you talk about the race right now with Republicans, you have to be real. And so let's talk real, not what the media says. Like, oh, let's all go to fucking Parlor. Let's all go to fucking Threads. Like, let's just be real and where everybody's at. Okay? If you look at the donor base for the Republican Party, okay, you've got two groups of people. You've got the rich country club mega donors that donate hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, right? And then you've
Mm-hmm.
got the small donation people. And typically, Republicans don't get a lot of small donation people relative to Democrats. Like Barack Obama was killing it on small donations. $5 donations, $10 donations, and there was all this conspiracy theories that a lot of this money was coming because they're small dollar that it's coming in from overseas and it's coordinated from like the Chinese and whatever. And while maybe some of that could have been true, the reality is a lot of people supported Barack Obama, and and it is the way it is. Um, if you look at the donation breakdown now of the Republican Party, which the media doesn't talk about, DeSantis gets all of the big money. And he's raised a ton of money, and he's got a PAC that's raised a fuck ton of money, but he can't coordinate with the PAC. All that money comes from the mega donors, the bundlers, and the country club Republicans or the wealthy Republicans. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump has raised a fuck ton of money. Most of his donors are all $5, $10, $25 donors, just like Barack Obama. And you can see the stratification, and I'm going to do a callback again now for a third time in his podcast. The big money says go to Parler. The big money says go to Mastodon. The big money says go to Rumble. But the real money says stay on fucking Twitter, stay on fucking YouTube, stay on Donald Trump. The reality is Donald Trump rakes in a shit ton of money. No rich person gives Donald Trump money. There is not a single person out there that's writing Donald Trump a $100,000 check. There's nobody flying down to Mar-a-Lago saying, I want a bundle for you. Donald Trump either raises money from $5, $10, $25 donations, or he puts the money in himself. And he's sitting, last I checked, it was a $150 million war chest. It's probably more, I think it's when that was a couple months ago. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, you cannot deny that you cannot deny, that he has the hearts, he has the draw, he does these rallies. I'm telling you, when he showed up, he did it again recently too. But I've said it before. He showed up at the train derailment in Ohio, and he showed up there, and he was at the McDonald's, and he's talking, and it was like, you can't stop this fucking guy. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, he's a master politician, and he's run for president before and won. He has experience. He can do it again. And it's like, well, maybe that was a one off. And then he did another one. He showed up somewhere. And again, there's noticing a theme here. Was it, what's the ice cream place he was at? Dairy Queen or Creamy Whip or like what's he said what's a Blizzard? Who makes the Blizzard?
That's Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen. He was a Dairy Queen. He's like, what the hell's a Blizzard? He's like, I'm a, and he makes reference to McDonald's, and he's just talking out of his ass, and everybody
Yeah.
loves him. And I don't care what the talking heads say. I don't care what the fucking what the indictment people say and what the freaking news people say. Donald Trump right now is unstoppable. And
Yeah.
the only question it now is who's playing for second place and whether they will be second place. Ron DeSantis will never, ever, ever be Donald Trump's vice presidential
Oh
candidate.
no, that bridge went up in flames.
I mean, I'm never say never, but it's like highly unlikely.
And I don't think Nikki Haley can do it either.
Oh, she would do it.
No, well, she'd do it, but I think she's burnt that bridge too.
Nah, no. She did a pretty good job of sucking his dick, proverbially speaking. When since January 6th, she's
Yeah.
come out and said a few things, but she's not. No, she still sits on that fence. She won't come out and attack. No, no. I mean, if it literally, if she's at the convention and it's literally within grasp. The difference is between grasping the silver instead of the brass ring, the stainless steel ring for vice president, or going home. Bitch is grabbing the stainless steel ring. Do not even doubt that.
But I
What
don't
he
think it'll be offered.
no. Now that's a separate issue.
So this is who I think it'll be, and I've got it down between two people. And you're probably going to tell me I'm full of shit, but that's why we do this, because it's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But I think it'll come down to either Joni Ernst or Kristi Noem. He's got to shore up that suburban woman's vote.
He could do that with Nikki Haley.
I don't think so.
Nikki's kind of Nikki Haley's problem is she's kind of too slick by half. She is a
Yep.
politician and she's pretty slippery. I mean, look, I got a picture of Nikki Haley at the FN factory in Columbia, South Carolina, holding that M4, shooting it on an indoor range.
Uh-huh.
She knows how to work a camera. She knows where the duck blind is, just like a horse face in the Democratic Party.
Uh-huh.
But
I
I think Kristi Noem. I don't know. That's a tough one. I think you're right.
if I had to flip a coin, I'd pick Joni first. Very pro gun, uh, very pro military. She was a commissioned
she's a
officer.
she's she's a colonel. Isn't she a
Exactly.
colonel? Yeah,
Uh,
she's like colonel or
no,
colonel.
I
I think
don't
she may have
know.
retired. She may have retired
She's
recently.
retired, but
I
uh,
remember
and
she's at least
her daughters graduated from West Point. Uh,
she was at least a
she
light colonel.
was
I think she made
vetted the
colonel.
last time around, and then she decided to bow out of that. So she was vetted by Trump the last time around. So there was
I forgot
interest
about
there.
that. I
Yeah, there was
forgot about that.
interest there.
I would have no problem with Joni Ernst. I'm not unfamiliar with Joni Ernst. I think Kristi Noem is a possibility. I think Kristi Noem's been a little bit too thirsty lately because no one's paying attention to her. And I would say this. I would say this. If I was Donald Trump and I was sitting and I was looking at these two, if I was down to the two women that you're suggesting, Colonel Ernst, which I will call her, Senator Ernst, or Kristi Noem, I would be thinking back to John McCain. And I would ask myself, at the end of the race, was John McCain happy with Sarah Palin and her behavior, especially at the end?
Oh,
And he
absolutely
was,
not.
and
Yeah.
he wasn't. And I think there would be some consternation within the party and the professionals of being like, Joni Ernst will stay on message and she will carry the Trump agenda because she is a professional. And I
Yep.
think there would be a fear that Kristi Noem would put on a cowboy hat and she would be riding the nuclear bomb out of the airplane, getting dropped on Moscow like in that fucking movie.
Yep.
Yeehaw! And fucking just take everybody out. If shit gets hard. And I
And
think,
Gnome needs more seasoning,
yeah.
but it's got to be somebody. I think that's the demographic you have to go to for a VP
I mean, it's interesting.
because he's got to shore up that suburban female vote.
So basically, what you're telling me is it's just coming down to which pussy is Donald Trump going to grab. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah,
That's
pretty much.
so and look, hey, in all fairness, politically, I'm being objective here. They're not unattractive women. I mean, Joni Ernst she's an attractive woman. She's always been an attractive woman. She's probably not Kristi Noem, but I mean, neither one of those women is rough looking,
Yeah.
at all. I think they're both attractive women. I mean, and Donald Trump
And
probably.
full
Well,
disclosure, I know Joni from way back in the day,
oh shit.
and I have very close connections to some of her family. I haven't talked to Joni in 25 years personally.
Okay.
But I know of her morals and values.
So
Uh,
you're covering your ass because she might hear this, and so you're not going to talk about how hot she is. That's fine. I got you. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. Joni, Colonel, Senator, we've always thought you're an attractive woman, professionally speaking. But wait a minute.
we
Hold on.
ran in some of the same circles back in high school. Let's just put it that way.
The cool kids? Yeah, I get it. Okay. Oh, were you a ring knocker? Okay. No. Um, did no one gets that joke but you. But here's a question. Would Donald Trump, if given an alternative, would Donald Trump choose a woman who looks like Hatchet Face? They're like, Hatchet Face, you got to take Hatchet Face because she has this and this X Y and Z 1 2 and 3 to shore up the ticket. Or would he be like, I'm not choosing Hatchet Face, I'm choosing Joni or Kristi Noem because just on that alone? Would Donald Trump choose Hatchet Face as his vice presidential candidate nominee?
I don't think you're going to tell Donald Trump who he can choose in any regards. Uh, like I said,
I don't.
I know, it was public knowledge that he vetted her the first time around for running mate. Uh, and nothing, you know, nothing other than, if I remember correctly, the public version on the news was she chose to pursue her Senate career. It wasn't, at least nothing publicly came out. She didn't meet his expectations. He didn't meet hers.
Well,
She
yeah,
just decided to
that's the way
focus
they
on the
always.
Senate. Yeah.
That's what they always. Yeah.
So, I know it was a thought in 2016. So it would not at all surprise me if it is a thought again, I guess is what I'm saying.
We'll have to see whatever her
But
public record is.
he's gonna pick whoever he wants to. You're not no I don't think anybody's gonna tell Donald Trump, as a party, we're telling you you need to pick this person.
So if Donald Trump has to pick a woman to be his vice presidential nominee, and he has a lot of experience with his pageant show. Is he gonna how long until Saturday Night Live does a bit where whoever he picks, they do it where they put the vice presidential sash over their, they give him a little crown and they be like,
Oh yeah,
you know
absolutely.
you're Miss Universe. So
Yeah.
um yeah, we'll see. I don't know, we'll see. I mean, uh
I think he's gonna pick somebody that aligns with his political values, who he doesn't feel like he's gonna have to argue every single point with.
I think Donald Trump is going to pick someone who's loyal, who isn't going to stab him in the back when shit gets hard. Because
Exactly. Yeah.
one thing about Donald Trump is you can pretty much guarantee. Look, let's just be real here. Like if Donald Trump asked me to work in his White House, everyone understands at this point that if you work for Donald Trump, eventually he's going to hate you, he's going to fire you, and he's going to get on national TV and say you suck. And
Mm-hmm.
that's hard for a lot of people. And Donald Trump likes to pick people that won't come out and say you suck back. And so I don't know, you know. But anyway, so much for an hour podcast.
Yeah,
Um,
we always say we're only going to do an hour podcast, and
yeah,
then
I
we
get
get
on here every
going.
fucking time. I'm like, yeah, just do a short one because
I always
whatever. I'm like,
block at least 2 hours.
yeah, you're like, yeah, whatever, Marky. You're like, shut up. You're like, whatever. Um, you know what? I'm gonna do the police blotter. We're gonna call it, and we'll go ahead and toss this one out. So I got three of them here. Um, uh, two of them are kind of standard police blotters, and the third one is I just like it for how they caught the guy. So the first one is comes out of Texas. Somebody had stolen a man's Tesla. I assume it's a car, but Tesla makes all kinds of vehicles, I guess. And Teslas, people don't understand this. Teslas, because they have all kinds of cameras and tracking. If you ever see a Tesla driving down the street, it's got cameras all around it. It doesn't have just a dash cam. It's got a camera looking out the side doors, a camera looking out the back. It's 360 cameras. That's my understanding. And so someone stole a guy's Tesla. He was like, "Where the fuck's my car?" He got on the internet, found his car. I think went to a mall in Texas, showed up, found the car. Basically, a big gunfight breaks out, and the person who stole the car was dead. The accomplice woman was in the car, was injured, and the owner of the car was also shot and injured. So it turns into a big old mess. And the police said that he was entitled to go find his car. The second story comes out of the Netherlands, and this is 8-year-old Marky from like 1979, if this was possible. A woman reports that her son, who is a kind of a computer whiz, got on the dark web in the Netherlands. Well, got on the dark web based in the Netherlands and ordered an AK-47 and ammo and had it delivered to their house somehow. A fully automatic AK-47. Probably came out of Ukraine. Probably came out of Eastern Europe, Bulgaria or Ukraine, and showed up. This 8-year-old kid ordered a machine gun, and she's having all kinds of hissy fit because of the dark web. And I was like, I get it. I'm like, yeah, maybe 8-year-olds shouldn't be ordering AKs off the internet, but I know 8-year-old me would have absolutely been like, if I can just get it and I could if I can get it, hide it under my bed, no one will ever know. The riskiest part will be getting it. 8-year-old me would be like, I think I could get away with it. If I could get away with it, maybe
Because my
ship it to
dad
someone
will
else.
never look under the bed for anything I
Yeah, my
shouldn't
dad will
have.
never. Yeah, under the bed. Yeah, no, under the bed, no. Um, as a kid, my mom found my dirty magazines, and is any upstanding, and they were under my bed in a box. And as any 12-year-old kid would say, I immediately said they belonged to my friend Mike. They're not mine. So, I was like, whatever.
Yeah,
I was
but they were
12.
my dad's magazines I stole, so I couldn't even use that
Yeah.
one.
Oh, dude, they were
And it was
so
my
they
sister that ratted me out.
so this must have been probably 80, 83, 82, 83. And these were dirty magazines. Like, I don't know, we had 4 or 5 of them. Like, I got them from a friend or whatever. But
Yeah.
like these things were like from the 60s and the 70s. Like they were, I mean, like they were like 10 years old, 12 years old, like, like that. Like there was no internet. And so you get a dirty magazine, and it was like, man, it was like a gold brick. So anyway, I was a kid, it was dirty magazines. Today it's
It's an
an AK
AK.
off the internet. And I think that's, I'm like, I sympathize. The third one, this is out of Wisconsin. I think this is incredible. There's a prosecutor in Wisconsin, and he started trading sex, trading deals for sex. Like, I'll cut you a deal. It's not the Hunter Biden deal. Hunter Biden's fucking somebody up there, and I'm just saying. But he basically, like, I don't know, like if it was prostitutes or drugs or kind of, it's always usually the same. But he was trading sex, and they were getting deals, and so eventually, how he got caught was, I guess, one of the women started talking. She wasn't complaining, she was bragging. She's not like, oh my God, I'm a victim, like, how are you free? You should have gotten at least a year. Did you rat somebody out? Did you flip on somebody? Like, on the street, they're like, you're a narc. She's like, oh no, I fucked the prosecutor. And so it started getting out that she, started getting out. And so And so, they're getting these stories and they're hearing these things, and so they start doing an investigation because there were enough of them, and maybe they had text messages, but they started really like, wow, this could be real. So they started looking, and it's like a he said, she said, like you got no proof, and then they finally were able to execute a search warrant, and they go in and they grab the guy's iPad and they're going through it as part of the warrant. I mean, it's bad. You're getting a warrant for the prosecutor. That's how the fuck you get that warrant. It's like, wow, like talk about like bringing in a VJ, a visiting judge and a visiting prosecutor. So they get the warrant and they're trying to connect him having sex with these girls because they know that he's giving them deals. So anyway, they get the iPad. They go through the iPad. He's got videos. He's filming himself having sex with these women that he's giving deals to. And in the videos, he looks at the camera. He's telling the women, he's like who's in charge or who's the boss or who's whatever it is. She's like, oh, you are, as he's fucking these women. And then in every one of these videos, he turns and looks at the camera and winks. And they're just like, well, this is pretty much a slam dunk. We got this one. So that video will not be on the website. But if you want to see any more stories or pictures or links of other stuff we've talked about, please go to the website at John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
Have a good day. Stay cool, stay hydrated, stay safe.